Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very quiet Ellensburg morning. This is Ellensburg, Washington. There's kind of a light mist here in early February of 2026. That's a shot out the window. This is a shot from the shelf inside of the office. And here we are again. Nice to see you. The local time is 7:47 a.m. Pacific time on the west coast of North America. And today's date is Saturday, February 7th of 2026. We are approaching 200 early birds, 200 live viewers here. But of course, if you're watching this in replay, you can skip ahead probably 13 minutes to the top of the hour and the beginning of this episode X. So let's chat with folks who are live here. Where are you viewing from? We are 5x5. Thank you for that report. Connorsville, Indiana. Boyd is in Boise, Idaho. Nanaimo, British Columbia. Snowy in Boone, North Carolina. Riverton, Illinois. And away we go, says Island Girl. Index Pluton. Phil says hello from Seattle. Elaine says it's sunny in Tucson. Pat from Yakima says hello. Okay, come on, let's go. Another Pat. Pat the pilot from Natchez. Good morning, Pat. Pat squared. Edgeville. Edgewater, Florida. Come on, boy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Veronica is in Alsace, France. West Yorkshire, UK. Maple Valley, Wisconsin. That's Tom. Maple Valley, Washington. That's Tom. Penticton, British Columbia, Canada. Hello. Marinette, Wisconsin. Kalama, Washington. Athens, Georgia. Vail, Arizona. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Mike's in Yakima. Las Vegas, David. Red Deer, Alberta. Lincoln, California. It's 2 degrees Fahrenheit in Fairbanks, reports Don. That's Alaska, for those keeping score. Wayne says aloha from Honolulu. Wayne's up early. Washougal, Washington. Kingsgate, Washington. Portland, Oregon. There's wind in West Virginia now. Come on. There's wind there. Hillsdale, Michigan, Amherst Junction, Wisconsin, Media, Pennsylvania, Quartzsite, Arizona, London, England. Grayson says this is a rare live appearance from Van Wa. Is that Vancouver Island, Washington? Come on, man. Vancouver, Washington? I'm excited about this morning, but I got to get myself locked in. Come on. I'm 4 verbal flubs already. I haven't spoken to a soul. Been up since 3. Kirk is in Sweden, Dallas, Texas. Perry is checking in from Cambodia, where it is in the low 90s and a light breeze. Hi, Perry. Kings Gate, Hollister, California. Alaska-chusetts, snowing and going down to 7 degrees, reports Leslie from Massachusetts. Hello from Nina in Norway. Nice 5- Celsius. Thank you, Nina. Missoula, Montana. Bo is in Champasak, Laos. I want to believe you, man. I want to believe you. I will believe you. I do believe you. You're from Laos. You're visiting Laos. I don't know. Wonderful. Hello from Quebec, Hamlin, Germany, Gibson, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio. Your presence here is helpful. It's waking me up. It's getting me locked in. So thank you. 7:51. Got a few more minutes before I need to walk. I was walking for about 10 minutes outside the building, just trying to get myself locked in. Today's going to be a good one if I can get there, if I can get myself ramped and in a flow. That's always the challenge, especially these Saturday morning shows. I'm a morning person, but still, how quickly can I get into the flow? If I can get into the flow, I just ride that thing. Just ride it. Bo lives in Denmark, everybody. Dallas says howdy. Mukilteo, Washington. Marysville, Washington. Heard of it. Roseburg, Oregon. Heard of it. Can you feel the energy, Bernadette? Bremerton, Washington. Oscar's in San Diego. Yeah, man. Yeah. Good. I got nothing really to say. I got a super weird bold open. We'll see if I chicken out right before I start, but I think I want to do it. Okay. Lethal Lee's a noon person. Yeah, I did you see the Friday noon talk yesterday? That was pretty good. I don't want to say I'm surprised, but that was a good talk. And yeah. Hello and best wishes from California's Mojave Desert. Thank you, Linda. Same to you. Cascade Locks, Oregon, where it's too early. All right, Mary. I respect your opinion. Howdy from Milford, Delaware. Picture and sound on a 30-inch TV, computer also on for the live chat. I will have a question today. Leon. Leon's been emailing every time he watches anything and giving his thoughts. Thank you, Leon, for your dedication. Okay, a couple more hellos, and then I got to start walking. Got to start walking. Harlan, Iowa. Patty, hello. What's up? Backcountry Gary? We have Backcountry Gary here today. He doesn't know. Nick Zentner doesn't know. Okay, all right. Hey, I need a couple extra minutes to walk. If you don't mind, I'll give you a shot out the window, I guess. Or maybe no, we'll do. It's so dark out there. Let me give you a shot of from the shelf. Oh boy. Here's an interesting book. We're going to touch on it just briefly. Atlas of the Underworld by Douwe Vandermeer. Douwe's going to make an appearance today. Not live. Okay. I mean it. Thank you. We have approaching 500 live viewers, and we're still 5 minutes early. Good. All right. We're in the flow. You regulars were in the flow. I don't know if this is record-breaking series. I don't think it is as far as number of people who are committed, but those who are committed are committed. You're here every time. You're watching every one of these. This is hard stuff. Today's going to be hard. Well, I'll do my best to make it work for you. Thank you. Shelf cam. Let's stick with shelf cam today. Oh, we'll give you a shot out the window, but yeah, there's nothing to look at. You don't need to see me walking by again. Okay? I need privacy, please. I'm going to take my walk in privacy. Okay? Okay? No cameras, please. No cameras. Hardy, har, no cameras. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, hot mic. Come on now. Hopefully Mike Eddy is still alive. In honor of Mike Eddy. Okay. So you're going to start with you're going to do that bold open, aren't you? You're going to do it. You're going to practice it as you walk. And then you can go right to Docky. You can do that. Keep the pace going. Give an overview for the whole episode. You can do it. Set up the tone for the whole episode. Start with Docky, start with 101, and then just keep rolling. But you've got to keep the pace going. Don't let it get bogged down. This is a long show as it is. Keep it brisk. You can do this. They're on your side. People are here. They're rooting for you. You don't have to win anybody over. Just be yourself. Enjoy it. Just have fun. Just be yourself. Go take your walk. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode X of Alaska A to Z. Hope you enjoy this morning's episode. There's only a couple after today, so we're going to do it right. You're with me, right? We're going to make this happen. We're going to make this happen. We're going to do this. I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking to you too. This one's going to be complicated and possibly long. But here's to you for being with us. Can you stick with me to the end? We shall see. Bold open. Bring, bring. Bring, bring, bring. Chugach Accretionary. This is Madeline. Yeah. Oh. Hi, Jerry. No, Frank's not in the office this morning. He's golfing with his friends. Beautiful weather, huh? February. Yeah, things are good here at the business. Chugach Accretionary for all your accretionary needs. Thanks for calling, Jerry. And don't forget our jingle. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Yeah, you've heard that on TV all the time, right? Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Okay. All right, that's the bold open. Everybody, that's your light moment for today. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Yeah, key change, whatever. Barry Manilow, we can keep going. We're not. Today's going to be hard. I love what I have for you today. And I've been up since 3, if you can't tell. So I'm half loopy already. I can't even promise these slides are in order. But we're going to start with some 101 content and slowly work our way into deeper and deeper understanding and deeper levels of complication. And the messages, the plate tectonic messages from the Chugach terrain in Alaska will be more and more radical as today goes on. Go for it. Docky. Yep. This is us. Who knows? And Stephen Johnston for episode Z. Let's start with 101, everybody. Let's go. All right. And listen up now, 101 students. We have an oceanic plate subducting beneath something else, another plate. We have a volcanic arc inland. We have arc magmatism with a subducting plate, mantle, wedge, and so on. Very good. Thank you very much. But there's usually, almost always, a mountain range that develops close to the trench between the volcanic arc and the ocean. And it's an accretionary wedge. It's accretionary. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple, but it's 101 right now. So the idea is there's stuff that's on the ocean floor. It was deep sea sediment that was deposited way the hell out there in the water. And this ocean plate is starting to subduct. It's starting to dive. And so 101, Geology 101, is we are going to continue to subduct the plate. This is solid, hard bedrock. But this is softer sediment. It's sedimentary material. And so we're going to scrape off that sedimentary material in the trench. And it's like shoveling snow. We're just going to start accumulating this accretionary material. It's sedimentary material. But it just keeps piling up. The longer that we subduct the ocean plate, the more of this sedimentary material we are going to pile up. We're shoveling snow, baby. And so eventually you get a rather impressive accretionary prism, accretionary wedge, a subduction complex. And nobody says that it's layer cake geology. Everybody agrees that there's all sorts of complicated folds and faults within this pile of accretionary wad of material. But what I do want to emphasize is that shouldn't we expect, if we have 100 million years, if we have 100 million years of steady, ongoing, in this picture, eastward subduction, if we have that, students, shouldn't we expect 100 million years of sediment that was scraped off of this downgoing ocean plate and accumulated? And shouldn't we expect some sort of age pattern where the original stuff that gets scraped off 100 million years ago is that we're just going to keep shoving stuff into the base of this pile, again, like a snow shovel. And so if we keep shoving newest stuff into the base of the pile, shouldn't we just expect things to get older and older in this accretionary wedge? This is like on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington with the Cascade Volcanic Arc. This is like the Chugach Accretionary Wedge with a volcanic arc inland. This is like the Franciscan Complex in California with a volcanic arc inland. I'm teaching 101 now. Shouldn't we expect that? And shouldn't all this stuff in the accretionary wedge be sedimentary material? It's just the scraped off material. We wouldn't really expect parts of the ocean plate itself to be in this, would we? If it was just a steady, simple, always Andean, eastward subduction story. That's the beginning of the episode, and that's the end of the 101 content. But we're establishing that Chugach Accretionary, it's not that simple. We're going to see all sorts of problems with this. And we're not fazed by that. We're not fazed when something's a little bit more complicated than we thought originally. In this community, our ears perk up. Oh, it's not that simple? Oh, there are big blocks of blue schist in the middle of that pile? It's not all sedimentary? Oh, wait, this age pattern is not organized like this? And ultimately, by the end of today, oh, that pile didn't form along the western margin of North America? It may be formed out in the Pacific Ocean somewhere, where this thing is not North America but something else? Yeah, that's where we're going today. This is a follow-up from the last episode. This is a series, man. Each of these gets built on the previous episode. And this one was slapped together late, but I like it. So let's go. We have all sorts of clips, all sorts of docky intermissions. And so we'll just roll. So here's Bob Hildebrand with a beautiful eastward subduction, a very simple Holy Trinity type of thing. And so far, I was just looking here, right? And we know the Geology 101 expectation, not only of the material, but of the age progression. Okay? Yeah, just did it. The Holy Trinity. Now, I didn't expect this, but I woke up at 3 this morning, and for some reason, I flashed on this interview I had with Douwe van Hinsbergen from Utrecht, the Netherlands. And I know this guy from his Tour de France geology videos that he did a couple of years ago. They are beautifully done. But I had heard through the grapevine that he's also interested in the Franciscan in California. Not our topic today. But let's listen to this first clip from Douwe and see how the Chugach Accretionary. Yep.
You know, accretionary orogenic belts like the Western U.S. or like Alaska are basically bits and pieces of rock that are off-scraped from a downgoing plate.
Mm-hmm.
It can be entire chunks of plate where subduction zone broke off and a new one started. You have a chunk left.
Yeah.
Or you just have this, right? You just have that.
Yeah. Oh, you did that in one of your Tour de France videos. I loved that. Yeah. I loved your sleeve going right up your arm. Perfect.
Well, that's the Franciscan,
exactly. Right? Yes. I loved it.
So, in the end, what you have is pieces of stratigraphy.
Yeah.
Bounded by faults.
Okay.
And the pieces of stratigraphy is where all the data come from. So the pieces of stratigraphy have a sedimentology, they have a paleontology, they have a deformation, then they can become metamorphosed, it can become intruded by magmatic rocks, you can do geochemistry on that, you can do everything on that stratigraphy and everything that happened to that stratigraphy. Mm-hmm. And there you get a relatively simple geological history. It can still be complex, but let's say on the scale of Kodiak Island, you can make that stratigraphy, or two stratigraphies, because you have an ophiolite on top of a melange. So you can take that ophiolite and you can pull it apart and work out what that stratigraphy and its history is. And I think that most of us will agree.
Mm-hmm. And
if you find a new age that we didn't know, then you know what to change in that particular history of that particular, let's say, tectonic slice between stratigraphies. And if you then integrate those histories then you can come to a big picture and you have the mesoscale that I'm looking for.
And yet you're the guy talking about slabs in the lower mantle as well.
Yeah, because that's the part of the stratigraphy that it was not left behind.
Okay.
So that's the part that went down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And by looking at those stratigraphies that are off scrape, you can date when the slabs go down.
I see.
Right?
I see.
You can put age on slabs, they can start reconstructing. Now you have a tie point, something in the mantle that you can connect to the surface and you can look at the mantle.
Oh, wow. I am excited. Please. So I like that cat. You know, many of these Zoom interviews, it's the first time I'm speaking with them, like 5 minutes before I hit record. And you never know if you're going to connect with somebody or not. That guy's fun and he's smart. And he put together this. You may not be aware of it. The Atlas of the Underworld, sexy title, Paleosubduction, Geography, Atmosphere, and Sea Level Reconstructed from Present-Day Mantle Structure, Douwe van der Meer. So yeah, there's lots going on. He's going to talk about the Franciscan, and believe it or not, we're going to California just a touch today, even though our main topic is the Chugach Accretionary. Let's keep going. Yes, so keep score today. I think everybody is going to like eastward subduction. Even Karin and Mitch are going to like eastward subduction for the Chugach. But we know also that there are possibilities of having westward subduction throughout this history, with North America dealing with other things out in the water. That's not new to us. And so sometimes we do need to flip things around and have the same type of a concept with an accretionary prism with westward subduction. But you're already getting the vibe, if you haven't already, that Douwe is telling us, and others are going to be telling us today, there's not just a bunch of sedimentary stuff that's scraped off of this plate. There's chunks of the frickin' plate in these prisms, in this accretionary prism. In the Chugach, it's going to be more than just a bunch of sediment scraped off of the downgoing plate. So let's go to the topic today. Yeah, it's been a while since we've looked at Bob's map. Here's the Bubblegum Fault. Here's the folded Koyukuk. It's been a long time since we've thought about the Tintina and the Denali Faults. And here's the topic of du jour, the Chugach Accretionary Prism that is sandwiched between the orange Denali Fault and the yellow Queen Charlotte Fault, which transitions into the Fairweather Fault on land. I think many Alaskan geologists naturally pair the Chugach with Wrangellia. I'm slowing down because this is, I think, the company line. You pair the Chugach accretionary wedge with the Talkeetna volcanic arc, for instance. And we're going to wonder if we like that today. Bob's map, Denali Fault, Border Ranges Fault. Here's the Talkeetna Arc, Anchorage. And the Chugach terrain is just outside of the city of Anchorage. I am going to be making some videos in June from the Chugach, so there's more motivation for me to look into this. Here's the Yakutat, the evil twin of the Silesia story. But we're talking about the Chugach. What surprises can we get from the Chugach today? What surprises? It's not that simple. Okay, so what do I mean by that? And here's the McHugh. Keep an eye on the McHugh, which has always been lumped in with the Chugach, but the McHugh terrain, it's starting to look like needs to be a separate story from the Chugach. So I went to one of the leading experts on the Chugach, Cam Davidson. I went to school with Cam. He's my age. We were both at the University of Wisconsin as undergraduates at the same time. I didn't know him, though. We had big classes, and Cam was kind of the teacher's pet, and I was the solitary guy in the back of the room, but whatever. I connected with Cam a few months ago in October. It went so well, I did 2 different interviews with Cam. I've got 4 clips, I think, maybe even 5 clips from Cameron Davidson from, where does he teach? What's the name of that? Oh, boy. Northridge. Oh, boy. I'll think of it. Cam.
You're able to show that.
Okay, well, let's jump outboard then, which I assume we're going to go south with your laser pointer, and we're going to get to some of those beige dudes. Where's the Chugach? Where's the Prince William? And have you been working exclusively in those colors in the last 2 decades with Garver? Carleton College.
So the Chugach terrain are these yellows here labeled CH.
Okay.
And then there's another piece of it down here. Notice down here in the Pacific, this is actually the Pacific Rim terrain, but some people have suggested that it may be related to the Chugach Prince William.
Hang on. I'm going to replay that. Cam teaches at Carleton College in central Minnesota. I'm going to replay what he just said. The Pacific Rim terrain, some people associate that with the Chugach. Keep that in mind. Let's do that again. God.
You're able to show that.
Okay, well, let's jump outboard then, which I assume we're going to go south with your laser pointer, and we're going to get to some of those beige dudes. Where's the Chugach? Where's the Prince William? And have you been working exclusively in those colors in the last 2 decades with Garver?
Yeah, so the Chugach terrain are these yellows here labeled CH.
Okay.
And then there's another piece of it down here. Notice down here in the Pacific, this is actually the Pacific Rim terrain, but some people have suggested that it may be related to the Chugach Prince William rocks. And then also this thing called the Crescent terrain. That's why they're all given about the same color.
Okay.
And the Yakutat terrain is this one right here, and that's currently colliding with North America. In fact, driving some of the highest uplift rates that you see right in this area where you have Mount St. Elias and some of these really big peaks.
Keep going, Cam. It's not that simple. This is essentially a north-south cross-section. The cross-section you're about to see is going to look like westward subduction. It's not. But this is north-south, A to A prime. Here's Anchorage. Here's the Border Ranges Fault. He's going to show most of this stuff, but also the Prince William Sound, which is less of an important story in my mind for us today. Okay? A is to the north. A to the prime is to the south.
So there's going from A to A prime. And so here's that cross-section. This is right out of a paper by Plafker et al. 1994. And so we're going from, North America, if you will, outboard towards the ocean today. And when this was first mapped, it was like, oh, here's the Orca group. That's our Prince William terrain, a bunch of turbidites. There's that contact fault I was telling you about before, which is a contact between the Orca group and the Valdez group.
Yeah.
And the Valdez group and the Orca group, like I said, on the western part, they look identical. I mean, they're just, these turbidites that go on forever. They're pretty spectacular, actually. And then you go right into today, the modern arc, and here's the Matanuska Formation. So, the nice thing about this is today, this is a subduction zone.
Yeah, you're right.
You've got a modern arc. You've got blue schist. You've got melange. So you could see why when they first mapped this stuff, they said, oh, let's lump the blue schist, the melange, and the flysch all together as one terrain because it's a subduction complex, period. So it makes a lot of sense. The problem with that is that they are all different ages. So the blue schist is Jurassic.
Oh.
And one of the things with the Valdez group and the Orca group, these things are turbidites. They have no fossils or very few fossils.
Yes.
And so, it was recognized then, oh yeah, it looks like, this is largely Cretaceous, maybe even into Paleogene age. And sure enough, our detrital zircon stuff has really nailed that down. It's like, that whole whack of turbidites is, 100 million years younger than the blue schist that they're supposedly associated with. So they have nothing to do with one another.
Okay.
And so that's why we're saying you got to kind of pull these things apart. And we would argue, and it's not shown here, it's really not shown here. But if I go back to the map, there's this thing called the Eagle River Thrust.
Yeah.
And we would argue that that's probably the terrain boundary as opposed to the Border Ranges Fault.
Okay. How are we doing? Pretty tame so far. Eastward subduction. That was just eastward subduction. An ocean plate subducting underneath Alaska. Okay. There's different ages. All right. We're expecting that age pattern, right? Oldest inboard to youngest outboard. But we're starting to realize we got big blocks of blue schist within. I don't know how important that is so far, you say, but it's more than just sedimentary stuff. Let's keep going. Cam's got a few more clips, including a few photos of things. Turbidites are the results of turbidity currents. A turbidity current is an underwater landslide off the shore of a continent or an ocean island arc as well. But you have this chaotic kind of, you think of an underwater landslide where the biggest stuff is arriving earlier than the finer stuff, because the finer stuff is getting held up in the water as this Tasmanian devil is rolling its way down the slope. And I know you might have some photos, but let's just do it this way. What's the difference between mapping a ton of turbidites and an accretionary wedge? I just assumed the turbidites were all sliced and diced just like everything else in a melange. What's the difference?
I don't think there is a difference. I mean,
Okay.
They are sliced and diced. They're not chaotic like a melange.
Oh.
So you do see big whacks of section.
Okay.
It would be probably a waste of time to try to measure stratigraphy in a classical way. And I'm not like I said, I'm formerly a metamorphopetrologist who now does zircons like a lot of people.
Right.
But, John right away has just said, yeah, there's, it's slices of these turbidites. And what's remarkable about these turbidites, I mean, it is a huge whack. I mean, when you're out in a boat in Prince William Sound, as far as you can see, it's turbidites. And there's, they've been isoclinally folded. So sure, they've been thickened. But in fact, George Plafker estimated, some ridiculous over 3 million cubic kilometers of material. So it's like one of the largest accretionary wedge complexes probably on the planet. And it's just been shoved into that armpit of Alaska.
And it's
probably due to all the transport of these trains heading north with this stuff sitting on the leading edge.
That's where we're headed.
That's how I've been visioning it.
Obviously, we're heading there, but so the age window is surprisingly young, at least to me. Like I think I read it's all between 60 and 50 million years ago that we're acquiring all this Arcosic sandstone, essentially.
Yep. And I can show you that same cross section with our ages on it at some point. Yeah.
So do we need subduction with all that melange/turbidite?
Well, that's a good question. That has been the traditional model for the Chugach strain and the Prince William, that it's a subduction complex. Mm-hmm. You definitely need an volcanic arc source nearby because it's getting zircons like nearly constantly, presumably. And we actually tested that in one idea because, one of the worries always with doing maximum depositional ages using zircons is that are you close to the actual depositional age or not? That's one of the questions you need to address right away.
Okay.
And we made the argument that most of these rocks are being deposited next to an active arc.
Okay.
And that arc then is throwing zircons into the basin.
Huh.
And way out on the Shumagan Islands, we actually found a tuff interbedded with the turbidites.
Okay.
And we went, oh, great. And we pulled that out, dated it, and it was like right where it should be in terms of like, if, whatever stratigraphy there was, it was like, okay, these rocks should be younger, these rocks should be older. And we got slightly older ages here, got the age of the tuff, and then slightly younger ages there. So it was like, okay, we're happy these turbidites are, or the MDAs we're getting out of the turbidites are probably pretty close to the depositional age.
Okay. So let's do one more verbal. Okay, so Cam was good. He wasn't threatened by such an oddball question. Does everybody agree that the Chugach is from subduction? He's like, well, yeah, pretty much everybody's saying that. We're going to land with Bob Hildebrand at the end of this episode where Hildebrand doesn't think it's an accretionary wedge. He doesn't think there's subduction generating the Chugach. That's a minority opinion. Sky Cooley's in the live chat defining things for people. Thank you, Sky. Ages. Let's get more about, it's not that simple. Can we find our age pattern that we established with the Geology 101 lesson?
So all these rocks in green are these sort of late Cretaceous, and then the Paleogene rocks, those are in brown. So that's the Orca group up in, Prince William Sound in that area. That's the Orca. Kodiak, it's called.
Let me interrupt Cam. So green here is the turbidites we were just talking about. We don't care about these local names, I don't think. But we're going to different spots, including Brandon Keogh's Kodiak Island locations, as well as the work of John Garver, who was a former student of Darrell Cowan, and others. So we're making some regional correlations, but the turbidite story, the sedimentary part of the accretionary wedge is up here. But now we're going to suddenly realize we got other stuff in here that's known as the Chugach. And look at the ages.
The Ghost Rocks Formation and things like that. And there really isn't the equivalent on Yakutat. You see some Paleogene rocks, but not as young as you see, say, up here in Prince William Sound. So then if you look down here, these are these flishes, okay? So like the McHugh complex up near Anchorage in that area, these are not flishes, sorry, the melanges.
What's a flish? What's molasse? I don't even know. I don't think it's important to us. Okay.
So the McHugh is this melange, and they're considerably older and have older components. They're the UAC on Kodiak, and then there's the Yakutat melange as well, which appear to be older. And then here are these blue schists, so like the schists of Liberty Creek, the Iceberg, etc. Raspberry schist. Here's the raspberry on Kodiak. So, our point is that you probably have 1, 2, 3 different terrains, if you will, because they are significantly separated in age.
I see.
Okay, as you go from west to east.
Yes.
So rather than lumping these together, this diagram is fact from the Plafker paper where he said, okay, this is all part of the Chugach. So he recognized, that, and all of them, that these are, a big chunk of time, from 200 million years ago to say 51, we know now,
Okay, so where are we? We're still getting comfortable with the Chugach itself, maybe making some regional correlations to other similar deposits in southern Alaska. We're about to go back to the world of Karensiglock, the red pickle, the green pickle, and we're going to zoom back out and try to work with the narratives we had in the last episode. That's where we're heading soon. We got maybe one more cam clip. He's got a couple field photos and something else to get us occupied.
So, and this is the other reason why it looks like an accretionary wedge complex, because they should young as you go outboard. And indeed, that's what you see. But, the oldest ages we're getting now, again, this is in the flish, not in the melange, at least up in Prince William Sound, are 73 to 66, all the way down as young as we get some 45s. But that's probably a more recent story.
Okay.
The majority of the material is 73 to 51.
73 to 51. Why are all those red blotches there? Are those near trench magmas? You can't make those.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to talk about those, but that are an important part of the story.
That's a distraction. Don't go there. Oh no, shit. I got to show you some photos.
So no.
God damn it. Sorry, Patrick.
So no, and
why are all those red blotches there? Are those near trench magmas? You can't make those.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to talk about those, but that are an important part of the story. So those are the Sanic-Baranoff plutons. If you put students on those too, because whenever we go up there, we bring like 6 students, and they all need projects. So
I
we,
see.
get things on various stuff. And in fact, I'll let me come back to that.
Yeah, we can save that for another day.
Let me show you what the turbidites look like. They're just gorgeous. I mean, this is from the Chugach. Beautiful interbedded sands and shales. Some of them have like amazing, sedimentary structures, like these beautiful flute casts. Just gorgeous rocks. But just really briefly for your Sanic-Baranoff,
And now he launches into the Daryl Cowan stuff. So longtime viewers remember Daryl Cowan, University of Washington professor, who was one of the first geology people of note to be in a live chat with unwashed people back in COVID days. So I'm always grateful to Daryl for that. Daryl had this story back 50 years ago and then 30 years ago with near trench magmas that are intruding the Chugach. So if you remember that story, the Sanok, Baranoff Island Pluton business, those plutons are coming up through today's topic. Our Cosic sandstones, our greywackies, our other kinds of sedimentary type material, part of this Chugach accretionary wedge. So we're going to skip ahead. Yeah, this is Daryl's work. Let's not get sidetracked, but Daryl had a nice, tidy story about translating things north using one major ridge as it subducts beneath North America. Daryl. Daryl's still with us in Seattle. I haven't heard from him in a while, but always have great, enjoyable moments with Daryl Cowan when I get a chance to visit with him. So we are here, but we're about to leave. We're about to leave Alaska and zoom way back out. I hope to keep most of you with us. And yes, now we realize a little bit more, even some field photos from the Chugach. We've got wildly different stuff all buried within this light gray. What do we do with that? And do we pair the Chugach easily with Wrangellia? And is it an eastward subduction story? And if it is it eastward subduction beneath North America? Is it eastward subduction beneath something else out in the Pacific Ocean? Is it westward subduction? Or is it not accretionary at all? So we come right back to our friend now, Karin. And much to my surprise, Karin's continuing with the series. She watched Thursday and sent me a bunch of extra stuff. And I'm like, wow, you're still watching? I thought you'd be on to your normal stuff. She says, I can't quit now. I'm hooked. I don't know what you're going to do in these last few episodes. So we're back to Karin one more time, including some fresh emails from a couple of hours ago. Karin, this clip will get us back into her world. This is a new clip for us, but it's from that same set of discussion topics we had last time. Let's just get back into the flow with a new clip with some older ideas, some familiar ideas.
It's this arc that is very far west. You see, it's a huge distance from Jurassic North America, and I mean, if these are offshore, then these are very offshore. But this is where the Farallon plate, which we know existed from isochrones, must have subducted, because it has to go into nearest by slab. Cannot just jump some slabs or go into here.
Yeah.
And so it is very solid evidence that this was offshore, and it stays offshore for a long time, because for North America to arrive here to start, making contact with this is only around Baja BC times, and slowly. This is like a Caribbean-like microplate, and imagine North America started overriding the Caribbean now. From Florida started impinging on the Caribbean.
So you're like, we were on task there for a while, weren't we? We were listening to Cam Davidson about the Chugach. Why are we suddenly back to this stuff from the last episode? This has nothing to do with the Chugach, does it? It does if you listen to Karin Siglock and Mitch Mahalanuk. Because I want to go to Docky and hammer a couple of points home. Let's see if this works. I did this right before I turned on the camera this morning. Let's do it. So this one we did together at the top of today's episode. We're starting to realize there's all sorts of questions about the polarity of the subducting plate, about what's in the accretionary wedge. Is it accretionary? Is there an age pattern? Is there any age information that we can use to make sense of what's going on? Now we're record scratching and going to Karin. So instead of showing all sorts of maps again, I just thought I'd do it this way. Maybe this helps. This is a new way to revisit what we were doing last time. This is the Chugach volcanic arc, everybody. And this is the Angayuchum ocean floor that was subducting westward, according to Carr and Mitch, into a trench. This dashed line is a trench offshore of the Red Pickle. We know eventually Arctic continental crust, in other words, Baltica, is going to collide with the Red Pickle 135 million years ago. That's the Brooks Range story. But it's this Chugach arc that's eventually going to get folded up and at least be on the north side of the Porcupine Bubblegum Fault. So this is what we've done the last 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes, I guess, right? Together? That's been many correlations between those two things. Well, suddenly we're down here looking at the Chugach today. Again, the dashed is a trench, and this squiggly green is accretionary wedge material, but it's right up against the Orange Pickle. What's the Orange Pickle? This is the Mescalera Ocean, also subducting westward according to the monster slab walls that are down there. Remember, we've got 2 red slab walls and a green slab wall. This is from last episode. We're subducting westward, subducting eastward. This is the Orcus Plate spaced between these 2 slab walls. They're monster slab walls. They're the main evidence that we know that we had 2 and even 3 major fixed trenches out in the Pacific for more than 100 million years. How do you know that? Go back to those other episodes. I can't do it all again. But the Orange Pickle is the insular superterrane. It's Wrangellia and Alexander and Peninsular soldered together by 300 million years ago. But again, we have a volcanic arc here, we have a volcanic arc here, and we have a volcanic arc here. This is the Farallon arc, and we have some remaining questions from the last episode. If this is such a major pickle, if the green pickle is this major, more than 100 million year old volcanic arc, where the hell are those rocks today? Am I missing something? You're asking yourself? I'm wearing green for the green pickle. I'm wearing green for the Chugach. I can't hold it. Karn and Mitch have the Chugach here. Today, the Chugach is juxtaposed against the Orange Pickle. So, George Plafker, Cam Davidson, Trevor Waldine, Sarah Ruski, many others are taking these 2 things. They're side by side. They must be related. I know there's different ages of stuff in the Chugach, say many of the Alaskan geologists, but there's also different ages of stuff in the Orange Pickle, in the Wrangellia superterrane, in the insular superterrane. The main message from today is that if we listen to Karn and Mitch, I know these 2 things are next to each other today, say Karin. This and this were made thousands of miles away from each other. And yes, the Orange Pickle was accreted south and then sent north, so that we have the Red Pickle and the Orange Pickle close to each other, but they weren't made close to each other. They were on 2 separate ribbon candies long ago. That might work for you. Kind of works for me, I have to say, right now. Somebody's full of himself this morning. So, yes, I'm going to do these quickly because this is last episode. I'm going to do these quickly because this is last episode, but what I just did with the pickles, this is the Red Pickle, this is the Orange Pickle, including the Guerrero, and this is the Green Pickle. Where's the Green Pickle today? It's disappointing. Karn and Mitch admit it. It'd be wonderful to have a big, huge Chugach equivalent that's a green pickle that's dominating the western margin of North America. Apparently, the only scraps of this green pickle, of this huge volcanic arc, the only scraps we have are the Pacific Rim terrain. One little sliver in southern Vancouver Island. We're going there before we quit today, but there's not much to look at. But you remember Cam said some think that the Pacific Rim terrain is somehow the same story as the Chugach. Well, that's a rather provocative thing for him to say. I don't know if he was talking about Karn and Mitch necessarily, but that's a provocative thing to say because he's literally saying, yeah, that the Chugach is maybe tied to the Pacific Rim. As I'm looking at this, you want me to draw? If you listen to Karn and Mitch, this is much of the Chugach, and this is the Pacific Rim, which is mostly under the Vancouver Island scene. Under? Wah, wah. Red pickle. Red pickle. Green pickle. I don't know my colors now. Karn herself, in the last few days, by email. At least some of the Chugach, and probably most or all, would have formed above the old deep Farallon slab that sits at the Pacific Northwest latitudes and which remained oceanic equals offshore until 100 million years ago, and then slowly made contact with North America and morphed into the onshore Cascade Arc after 50 million years ago, just after Baja, BC had passed inboard of it at the last minute. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We just went from 101 to graduate level 701. Yeah, I know we did, but I warned you this was coming. I'm just going to keep reading these emails and hope that you can grasp some of it. I can grasp some of it, not all of it. Let's keep going. Again, Karn's engaged, so let's just keep her connections with us. Me to Karn, I find it interesting, Karn, that the Chugach seems to be viewed wildly differently between Bob Hildebrand, you, and Trevor, Cam, everybody else. Karn, Mitch and I don't think that we view the Chugach differently from most everybody else. It is a Farallon eastward subduction complex like the Franciscan complex in California. To grow, those two subduction complexes had all the time they needed above the two Farallon eastward slabs, the really old Cascadia Farallon North slab and the Farallon South slab that made the batholith stage of the Sierra Nevada Arc. Can you see why we're probably going to California next time? And I confess, I still don't have this figured out. I now know the deep Cascadia Arc thing, the green slab wall beneath the green pickle. I've got that now. But it's a little too early for me still to deal with these shallower versions of Farallon North and Farallon South. I got 5 days between now and Thursday to figure it out. So yeah, I mean, the Cascadia Route 2, got it. But now the lighter green, Farallon North, Farallon South, and there's a big break in the Farallon South, which somehow has to do with Baja, BC. I don't have it yet. You might. I don't. Karn, an email last night after she watched Thursday's episode. Your last minutes, Nick, were spot on, reflecting on the viewer question, was offshore Farallon subduction, Cascadia Root slab wall, forming the Chugach complex. Cascadia Root's offshore arc, in other words, the green pickle, has mostly disappeared from view, but a lot of its subduction complex has evidently survived, as the Chugach complex. The complex must have been brushed off, very obliquely accreted, onto Baja, BC as the latter was passing, and the Orcus plate was being squeezed out. So while the Cascadia Root Farallon arc was slowly making landfall, I picture it as a North American Baja BC gradually assuming the upper plate role to the Farallon plate that was previously played by Orcus plate. You're going to have to forgive me. Some of these are out of order, but I was just grabbing sections of emails from Karin Siglock and just tossing into this thing like 2 hours ago. Here's another passage. Where did the Orcus plate subduct to? I need to clean up that 85 million year old terrain slide. If I get it done before tomorrow, I'll send it. I knew she'd send it. She sent it 2 hours ago. I've decided the Orcus lithosphere should have been the first thing to subduct into the nascent Aleutians Trench 50 million years ago. That's the simplest solution. It implies that the Orcus plate survived in some form to 50 million years ago, manifesting as the resurrection plate. It scooted north all the way with Baja BC, and around 50 million years ago, it started the new subduction zone under Baja BC, in the absolute location where the Aleutians slab is imaged today. Is she responding to Chris Mattinson's question about what's pulling Baja BC north? I don't know. This is too early for me. You're ahead. I think a bunch of you are ahead of me now. It's okay. More. Oh yeah, this is like, I got this 2 hours ago. Nick, here's a slightly revised version of the Orcus slide in case you wanted to use it again. It shows the Orcus plate escaping parallel to its two bounding trenches and the future Aleutian arc that will be started by it. The slide is not 100% correct in that the Aleutians Trench is shown slightly too far to the southeast compared to the observed slab. Too early for me, let me just keep reading. But it hopefully conveys the idea. To get from 85 million years old to the present, all the Alaskan terrain still need to move further to the northwest and will be dumped around the bend, northwest plate boundary of the Orcus plate, and come to rest in the area that has the label Future Aleutians by 50, the time at which the Orcus plate finally subducts beneath that newly dumped terrain pile backstop. After 50 million years ago, the Kula lithosphere keeps subducting into its trench, which basically merges with the Aleutians Trench. But the Kula spreading center is observed to have ceased operation at that time. So no more new production of Kula plate. Once all Kula lithosphere has subducted, the Pacific plate follows it, and that's still the situation today. So to me, she's still thinking about a week ago with that last 5 minutes of the round table. And Trevor and Mike and myself, all inspired by Chris Mattinson's very late question. We've got stalkers outside looking in the window. Keep going. So here are these revised maps. I'll let you freeze them and look at them carefully. There's a lot going on here. Karin, thank you for the hustle. I don't really know what to say. Zoomed in just a little bit, even though. So here's Chugach. Here's Rangelia. Here's the orange pickle. Here's Pacific Rim, green, and associated with the Chugach, among some, maybe most. Oh, did I clip this off, Karin? Did you have something up here that's important? I'm sorry if that's true. Thank you, Karin Siglock. Okay, so these are questions or maps from the last couple of episodes. I'll just remind you of them, but I want to push ahead. We have 10 minutes before the top of the hour. More from Karin. Good Lord. The event seems to have enough of a subduction character to plaster the Cascadia Route Farallon arc beneath Insular, Vancouver Island, but also enough transform character to smear northward its Chugach complex before it could follow the arc into the subsurface. The most outboard part of the Chugach, 70 to 50 million years old, is best preserved as might be expected from these events. Its inboard, older parts are less completely preserved, Cretaceous, McHugh, Melange, and its scattered Jurassic blocks. The main transform contact must have been the border range's fault. Okay, so we're transitioning to the Pacific Rim terrain on Vancouver Island, and then we're going to Bob Hildebrand off the board completely. Thank you, Pacific Rim. So Mitch Mahalanuk sent a few maps to me. Jerome Lessman sent a few maps to me. It's pretty early for me, but I think this is all we can do. I think this is all we can do with the Pacific Rim. There's hardly anything to look at. This is Victoria down here in the southern tip. This is Vancouver Island, British Columbia. This is Washington. Seattle's down here. So this isn't that far away. Nanaimo is where Jerome lives. We filmed Two Nick on the Rocks in this area, on this side of the island. I've never been over here, but I think if you go to Victoria, you can get your feet on the Leech River complex, part of the Pacific Rim. And then here's Silesia. So, like, what? Is this all we have of the green pickle? Really? This beautiful map from Mitch, I'm hoping to use a little bit more. Here's Vancouver Island. Here's the little Pacific Rim scraps. But this map, whether I don't think it's Mitch, or maybe it is, this used the same green as the Chugach. Well, now we're asking, are we lumping the Western Melange into this? Can we really follow this story? And even more bold, is it possible that Chugach was down in Washington or even further south at some point? I love this map. I love all the ophiolites in black. Been looking for a map like this. Ridge River, my God, there's a lot. So yeah, Jerome just grabbed a bunch of teaching slides he had, little faded things, but it's showing the Pacific Rim here, kind of caught between Rangelia, the orange pickle, and Silesia. More stuff just randomly sent on between classes that Jerome hustled to send from his office on Friday. Pacific Rim is here. What a disappointment if this is the only part of this major, major story that's out in the water. This is the only part of the story that exists. Maybe there's more and we're just not realizing it. Maybe there's a hell of a lot more and we're not realizing it. Pacific Rim. I hope you're still with me and you know what we're talking about right now. I mean, yeah, Mitch says, I'm sorry to send you this. You can barely see what's going on, but this is the only image I have that's decent of the lithoprobe, which is looking carefully in the subsurface, some sort of imagery from the subsurface. I don't know the details. I don't even know where I am here. I can barely read this myself. This is Vancouver Island. Here's Rangelia, the Carmoutzen basalt and the Bonanza Arc and all that. And then here's the Pacific Rim, just this little thing. And I guess this as well, like underplating. So, man, I wish we had more. Okay, you want to get wild? We're towards the end. Karin. It's possible that part of the Chugach is the same thing as the Franciscan, just displaced northward by Baja, BC. The Franciscan complex in California grew above the southern Farallon slab, which created an Andean-style onshore arc, the Cretaceous Sierra Nevada Arc, extensions into Mexico and Idaho, the arc that succeeded westward subduction along the polarity-flipped insular margin. If part of Chugach did originate from California, it would still have passed quite close to the Yellowstone hotspot on its rapid northward journey 80 to 50 million years ago, calling Stephen Johnston. Now we're talking about the Yellowstone hotspot. We're back to that. I think that's probably where we're going next week. I'm not really sure. But there seem to be major narratives that are totally unacceptable among many established geologists, but damn enticing for those of us on the fringes here in this little world. Peer-reviewed. we would say that the Farallon arc that goes with the Chugach complex is either the Sierra Nevada arc or more likely the intraoceanic arc that grew above the old offshore Farallon North Slab, the Pacific Rim arc terrain and its colleagues that are now underplating Vancouver Island, or a combination of both. Those two Farallon arcs didn't get smeared northward as much as their Chugach subduction complex because most outboard parts of an accretionary system generally get translated the most. All the best to you. I'll be very curious how you navigate that tomorrow. It's a weird feeling. I have no idea what I'm reading. I'm just the middleman now. I don't have that. But obviously I believe in her work, and so I just wanted to share that with you. I think we're about to finish with the come back to Dawa, who put me on the spot. I kind of liked what he did here, but now we're thinking about California with this accretionary story. Please remember that both the established view of Chugach, eastward subduction, and Karn and Mitch are eastward subduction. They're both viewing it as an accretionary wedge, accretionary subduction complex, that whole story. It's just a question of where's the trench, at North America's margin or way the hell out there. Douwe from the Netherlands is now thinking and sharing some new work with ideas about the Franciscan complex. Can we really go to the Franciscan complex in episode Y and continue this story? I don't know. I got 5 days to decide if we want to do that or if we want to change our mind. But I like this little section in here. It circles back to how we started today's episode.
Time of subduction entered the trench. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have pile number 5. There we see at, I believe this is 110 million years, we have mid-ocean ridge basalt coming in that is 170 million years old. So it's getting older.
Yes.
And then here at pile 8, we have a mid-ocean ridge basalt that is 190 million years old that arrived in the trench 100 million years ago.
Douwe is sharing detail from within the Franciscan complex, which may or may not be a continuation of the Chugach, which now is in California. Was the Chugach once upon a time connected to this? Is it the same story? But you know that our expectation at the beginning of today's episode is that we would have an orderly age progression with all sedimentary material. Yeah.
Right?
Weird.
No.
Not weird.
No, it's just what it is.
That's what you'd expect?
I don't expect anything. It just it is.
Okay.
Let's have no expectation.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Let's just have zero expectation.
Okay.
So why do you think it's weird?
Well, I'm trying to think of what I would expect if we have just ongoing steady subduction of a Farallon plate, which is the classic traditional view of this 50 years ago at least. And yeah. I would expect an orderly scene where we're just continuing to scrape, and whatever the pattern would be, I'd expect to just see repetitive pattern throughout the whole 180 million years of ongoing subduction of a steady plate. And
and if that lithosphere would have formed at the Izanagi Farallon Ridge,
okay,
or at the Pacific Farallon Ridge,
yeah,
then it should get younger from
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then because then the oldest subducts first, and then you get younger and younger.
Correct. That's right. That if we are expecting something, Douwe, that's what I would expect, and I'm not sure I'm saying that.
I'm very sure you're not.
All right. So it's the top of the hour. I could stop it there, and part of me wants to stop it right here. But I can't. I can't stop it here. So before we come to your live questions, and I know you'll have a bunch of questions today. I have a bunch of questions today. Before we stop, I have to tack on this coda right at the end. And we return to the grand old man, Bob Hildebrand, which I want to do anyway. I want to bring Bob back into this series late. It feels like we've just abandoned the first half of the alphabet. So Bob, of course, sees this whole topic today completely differently. And he, remember, Bob Hildebrand is Mr. Index Card. Not his device, it's mine. But you remember, it's been a month since we've thought about the collisional suite and green rocks at the suture and thrust faults and slab failure plutons and arc plutons and everything else. But remember, Bob Hildebrand, every time there's a major collision, has big packages of sediment. Ding, ding, ding. Big packages of sediment that are being deposited away from an uplifted and complicated hinterland. And Bob alone, as far as I can tell, views the Chugach terrain as this, not gray. I don't even really know which of these he's talking about. We're going to read his emails before we quit. Which color index card am I going for with Hildebrand? But what I do want to find is a way to summarize today's episode. And I showed this to you very quickly, maybe 2, 3, 4 episodes ago. But this is my way to summarize what we've tried to do here today with the Chugach. This is the established idea that the orange pickle and the Chugach have been paired and are united in holy matrimony and have been for a hell of a long time, with eastward subduction underneath the North American continent. More recently, Karin, and I think just Karin and Mitch, view the Chugach also with eastward subduction, but it's the trench offshore that built the Farallon ribbon candy. And therefore, this is the green pickle, the Farallon volcanic arc, which also started 180 million years ago. And so there should be, starting 180 million years ago, a bunch of detail in the Chugach that's tied to this, but it's way offshore. This last little part of today's episode is Bob says, get subduction out of the picture. Free your mind, baby. I got long hair. I'm Bob Hildebrand. I'm a free thinker. And I want a collision. And I want the Chugach to be a post-collisional sedimentary pile. That's too simple, but let's have Bob speak for himself. Here he is. This is my email to Bob more than a month ago. Bob, it seems like everybody likes the Chugach as an accretionary wedge that built as eastward subduction was under Wrangellia. Chugach and Wrangellia the same age? And then everybody seems to think that both Wrangellia and Chugach moved north, but Chugach moved much farther north than Wrangellia on the Border Ranges fault? But you think, Bob, that westward subduction is under Wrangellia and so the Chugach is post-collisional sediment and not an accretionary wedge? And so the Chugach is younger than the arc stuff on Wrangellia? And while I've got you here, Bob, and so you don't think the Chugach was moved so far north on the Border Ranges fault? Hell, do you even think the Border Range fault exists? Nikki Z, as I know that you are trying to better understand Alaskan geology prior to your heading up there this summer, I'll spend a bit of time trying to explain how I understand the geology of the Wrangellian superterrane, the polarity of subduction during 2 of its collisions, and how the geological evidence fails to support an eastward subduction model for Wrangellia, despite the reigning paradigm. While doing this, I will also explain why the Chugach terrain does not represent an accretionary prism. This basic introduction should be enough to get you started. Nick, the Chugach terrain is generally considered to be an accretionary prism separated on the north from the Wrangellia superterrane by the Border Ranges fault. But I believe that rocks of the Chugach do not represent 4-arc rocks. They form 3 discrete and temporarily different packages that post-date 3 separate collisions. Thus, as they postdate arc magmatism and were deposited during collisional exhumation, they cannot be accretionary prism rocks. Wake up. Let's start with the simplest of criteria for determining subduction polarity in a collisional belt. Arcs occur on the upper plate, while passive margins are lower plate. Within this framework, post-collisional magmatism, with compositional differences, compositions distinct from those of arc magmatism, marks lower plate breakoff and termination of continental subduction, the start of hinterland exhumation, and the switch from fleisch to molasse in the forearc, constructed atop the drowned passive margin. A group of rocks considered by most workers to represent a Mesozoic tertiary accretionary complex outcrops along the southern part of Alaska, where it is known loosely as the Chugach Accretionary Complex, or the southern margin composite terrain. The complex is separated from the Wrangelian superterrain by the Border Ranges Fault. Discontinuous, fault-bounded slabs of 200-million-year-old blue schist occurs adjacent to the Border Ranges Fault in the north. Younger melanges, known either as the Chugach or McHugh complexes, depending on location, outcrop farther south and comprise internally complex belts of argillite and greywacke, holding blocks and slabs of ophiolitic rock such as chert, metabasalt, gabbro, and less common ultramafic blocks. Recent detrital zircon studies reveal that the McHugh complex was deposited at 2 different times, one no older than Oxfordian, and the other with maximum ages that range between 91 and 84. Farther outboard lies the Chugach Fleisch, the most voluminous part of the southern margin composite terrain. The Fleisch was deposited after 85, but dominantly was built at around 68 to 67 million years ago. Bob is addressing all of this detail. Bob Hildebrand is sitting at home and typing all this out for us, specifically. I've been sitting on this email since early January. In all 3 cases, rocks in the McHugh-Chugach cannot represent accretionary prism rocks or any forearc setting, as there are 3 main groups of rocks that are in each case younger than relevant arcs and coincide with collisional exhumation and erosional unroofing. 1. McHugh 1, younger, 157 to 146, than the Wrangell Peninsular Collision at 170. 2. McHugh 2, younger than the 100-million-year-old Peninsular Ranges orogeny, which we haven't discussed here. And 3, Chugach Fleisch, younger than the 85-million-year-old Laramide collision. I wrote a bit about the McHugh and Chugach in my previous email, so I'm not going to repeat all that again, but the age of the Chugach Fleisch is younger than 85 with dominant sedimentation. Thus, I'm unsure, Nick, why you are even talking about it being related to the Wrangellia Peninsular Collision at 170. There are some 200-million-year-old blue schist blocks bounded by older faults along the Border Ranges, but they're clearly not the Chugach Fleisch, you moron. The Potter Creek assemblage near Anchorage, which contains basalt, mudstone, and lithic and feldspar-rich sandstone with MDAs from 169 to 156, so are younger than the 170 collision, can't be accretionary prism rocks. Likewise, the McHugh is younger than the 100-million-year-old hit, so cannot be accretionary prism rocks either. They all sat outboard of their related collisional belts and received their sediment from the exhuming and eroding hinterlands. That's why they are not filled with volcanic debris or ash beds, but instead filled with clastic debris full of post-collisional detrital zircons. And so I'm reading this one to you again. Viewer, this is the last slide before your live questions. I love this email. It's snarky, but it summarizes to me everything that Bob Hildebrand brings to the table with so many of these discussions. After so many decades, The long-lived eastward subduction hypothesis has become so ingrained among Cordilleran geologists that they have had to invent geology to make their eastward subduction models work. Perhaps those geologists have no experience working in collisional origins, so they're blind to the critical diagnostic features of collisional belts, despite the obvious collision of many arc-bearing terrains with one another or with Western North America. The Wrangelian composite terrain provides a cautionary tale because geologists argued that subduction was easterly beneath the composite terrain in two different collisions, Jurassic and mid-Cretaceous, and yet in both cases, there was no obvious accretionary prism to the west, as predicted by their models. The complete lack of an accretionary prism forced them to invent one. And then because it didn't exist, it eroded away before anyone can see it. To me, it's a phantom accretionary prism, entirely untestable and more akin to magic, or just plain made-up shit than science. Thanks for hanging in to the end of this one. We're going to do some live Q&A right now. And maybe you were feeling good at the top of the hour, and now maybe you're not feeling so good because Bob views it totally differently. It's like, why did we spend the full hour on accretionary prism work when then you toss in this wild card at the end? It's because that's where we are. And we're listening to everybody. Here, uppercase. Eric, is it possible that more of the Pacific Rim terrains extend farther south but buried under the Columbia River basalts? And what is a flysch or flysch? I don't remember, Eric, about the flysch. The Pacific Rim, so by now, thank you. By now, maybe we have a list of things that are missing. Is there more of the Koyukuk Arc, the red pickle? One of the biggest things that's missing is the green pickle, the Farallon Arc. I think there's other things that are missing too. We're obviously not going to find a bunch of stuff in this alphabet, but maybe there's things like the Coast Plutonic Complex that can be viewed totally differently with these narratives. Not all these narratives have to be set in stone, obviously. We're raging against the machine here, this entire alphabet, in case it hasn't occurred to you. Fine people everywhere, but like most times we get together for these alphabets, I find myself rooting for the underdogs. Leon, could the northern Farallon Arc, the green pickle, have been mostly, if not all, underwater volcanoes like the present axial seamount, so that they're mostly or all went down the trench? Thank you, Leon. What is different about the Farallon? What is different about the green pickle than the red pickle? Is it possible that the green pickle doesn't have any basement? And it's just a much different volcanic arc that's out in the water and not as tall, or it's just not as substantial, or it's easier to get rid of. I think many are sure that there's a continental basement for both of these pickles, North American basement and Baltic continental basement, and maybe both. Remember, we're bringing stuff in and then rifting it back out, and so on and so on and so on. So maybe the fact that all these pickles have the same age is fine, but maybe what are the fundamental differences of the Farallon Arc? And are those differences real enough and significant enough to explain why it went poof? In Bob's language. Thank you. Kelly, Do the turbidite landslides control the size of the accretionary wedge, keeping it below the water surface until a collision happens, or does the subduction of the wedge cause the slides? Good questions. I'm not sure, Kelly, but Bob Hildebrand, I think well, I'm not sure. Is Bob saying the Chugach are not turbidites? Are we sure they're turbidites? Are we sure they're underwater? That should be obvious by now, I guess. But Bob is saying that it's a post-collisional turbidite as opposed to a turbidite happening near a trench. Elaine, so are we just looking in the wrong place for the orange pickle? We're looking in the wrong place for the orange pickle. Well, and I know some of you are frustrated with my teaching and I just keep using my analogies and I don't even use the real names. This is the insular superterrane and the Guerrero as well down in Mexico. And this is Rangelia that's now, significant amount of it. This is the whale. Western Alaska down to Mount Stewart. And then I guess continuing down into Mexico. So I'm not sure, Elaine, if I get your question. I think we know I think the orange pickle is present and accounted for. There's a lot of Rangelia superterrane at the surface. And there's a fair amount of Koyukuk Arc, the red pickle, at the surface. But we got a missing green pickle. And it's disappointing and maybe even worse than that we got nothing major to look at the surface for one of the dominant slab walls that exist in the mantle. Unfortunate. Rosie from Texas. Again, Karn and Bob are the outliers, but their knowledge of the North American Cordillera are far superior. Okay, that's your opinion. Thank you, Rosie. I'm obviously presenting their work, Karn and Bob, and elevating their work. I don't mean to throw shade on the people who are doing work within the established framework. I kind of do, I guess, but like individually, they're working hard and they're putting good information together. I find it frustrating that they can't allow other narratives, potential narratives. Will, Karn has 2 green pickles with different histories. Is the Chugach more complicated than we have been thinking? Anyone? I agree, Will. You remember last episode, she had, I don't know if I should find that. No. Yeah, the green pickle is not as put together as the red pickle. They're smaller. What do they call those? The smaller pickles? Cocktail pickles or something? Whatever. Gary Paul. What the hell happened to the Kula Farallon spreading ridge? All right, settle down, Gary. Gary, I think, wants to go right back to what we've done in previous alphabets where we were trying to visualize spreading ridges, migrating spreading ridges, green M&Ms, resurrection plate, yay or nay. I just can't handle it right now, Gary. I love it. If I didn't know who you were, I'd be like, God, who is this? But I know who you are, Gary. Dropstone Studio. Could Siletzia have pushed the Pacific Rim down the trench when it accreted? No, that's an interesting thought. How much are we confusing Siletzia and Pacific Rim? Are we confusing them? Am I confusing them? Am I confused? Papagino, how can people view the same information and come up with different facts to suit their agenda? Well, this isn't the first episode we've had, this isn't the first alphabet that we've had this major change. Come on, let's go. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of narratives. And my answer is, how's it possible? People are people. For better or worse, we are people that ride with the pack, many of us. And just some of us can step back from the pack and go, wow, I don't know if there's a few things wrong with this pack I'm hanging with. Let me try to think differently about that. That takes guts and inertia. Patrick, could the geometry of the subduction of the Farallon be unsupportive of an arc like Puerto Rico? You're ahead of me there, Patrick. Do we really have a volcanic arc? If we can't find anything that's true arc magmatism from that Farallon arc, did we ever really have volcanoes on the Green Pickle? We had 100 million years of subduction. You'd think we would. Koshkanon Jim, could the majority of the Green Pickle simply been underplated to North America and eroded through melting? I guess it's possible, but now we're back to Bob's argument that, like, you're just going to erase everything and that's your argument? It's possible, but it'd be nice to have something major from 100 million years of action. How about three more? David from the Yukon. David, I just couldn't find a place to use your animation. I'm sorry. Subduction without an arc? Question mark. Yeah, I don't see how you can subduct for 100 million years and not have any volcanic arc. But yeah, I mean, if it just went away, it went away. Tim, can we separate the Bob Hildebrand style sedimentary packets and then accrete in other packets? I think I get the vibe of your question, Tim, but I don't understand the basics. I'm trying to get Bob on with a recorded Zoom interview, and I'm not hearing much from him lately. But Bob, if you're watching this, thank you for watching. And can we do a recorded Zoom interview, maybe just on the Chugach? Maybe it doesn't have to be far afield. Maybe it can just be focused on this topic. It seems, or the Chugach merging with the Sierra Nevada. Bob, if we do a Monday recorded Zoom interview, then I could use those clips from that interview on Thursday. For some reason, I don't want to stop this morning. I don't know. I'm scrolling way back now. A lot of pickle questions. If Baja BC was on the inboard edge of the Orcus Plate, then could the outboard Farallon arc get sent to Siberia? Oh. Interesting thought. Sounds interesting to me. In Bob's email, he says made-up geology. What is he referring to with that comment? He's referring, let's finish with that. Bob Hildebrand is saying most everybody is telling this story with this picture, but there is no accretionary prism present for much of this story. And so people who are saying that say, well, yeah, obviously it's eastward subduction, and obviously these magmas are a volcanic arc from eastward subduction. And yeah, we just don't have the accretionary prism because it eroded away. And Bob Hildebrand says, well, maybe it's not a subduction story, and that's why your accretionary prism isn't there. Subduction erosion is the phrase that bothers him. And it kind of bothers me too, to be honest. A toast to you. Chugach Accretionary. Oh. What was my jingle? Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Thank you for tuning in today. Here's to you. Here's to the health of your family and your friends. Everyone in your community. Pretty important to have community these days. My goodness. Here's to you. Here's to your dedication and your loyalty to what's going on here These are hard episodes, and you keep showing up. Thank you sincerely for showing up. Okay, well, I meant to tease the next episode, and I think it is likely we're leaving Alaska mostly and going to California. But I'm not sure of that. And then I'm still totally unsure what Stephen Johnston will want to do for episode Z. I'm just going to leave it up to him. And we'll just play off of what he wants to do. But I'm hoping to hear from Stephen tomorrow or Monday so that I can sit and think about how we can somehow wrap up the series. But I'll be preemptive right here with you. For those that say, and it happens every alphabet, oh, we need more letters. How about you do 5 more letters just to kind of like recap everything? That's what the downtown lectures are in April. That's how I view those downtown lectures. That's the recap. That's the chance to take all this 26 hours of stuff and package it succinctly. And I know many do not join us for these alphabets, but they definitely watch the downtown lectures. Like, oh, I wonder what that guy learned last winter. And then they tune in and they see 3 hours instead of the 30 hours that we've done together. But you're here in the woodshed with us, and I've been learning a lot from you. So thank you. Okay, everybody. I'll see you on Thursday, February 12th for episode Y. Why? Worked last time. Not today. Thank you. I love you, and goodbye from Ellensburg, Washington, USA. Shelf cam. Window cam. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Ding. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Copyright strike. Chugach Accretionary. It's not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple. Chugach Accretionary. Not that simple.